Alyssa Silverman of the D.C. Fiscal Policy Institute did a study that showed there are 30 different programs, a dozen agencies in the city that have a finger or a toe in the job effort, but the city needs to radically change employment services, just as it has tried to change the school system. The Associated Builders and Contractors of Metro Washington, the business people, say that First Source is not being used right, that no one gets any credit for job training, that the city simply is not doing job training. Everyone talks about it, but nothing gets done. How can you move the ball farther down the road so the people who most need employment can get employment?
Well, Tom,
let me just start with Mr. Biddle, who's closest.
So I think the first thing with the approach to job training has to be outcomes focused and based, right? It's got to be not that we're running people through some series of activities that we claim
blow up employment services. And
I think the analogy to the school system is right. We need to radically reform how we approach employment services and make sure that we're actually putting people through a set of experiences that will actually get them prepared to go to work. I mean, I think about little things like the Summer Youth Employment Program, which has devolved into just a summer jobs program. It's not helping young people develop the necessary skills to be competitive in the workforce once they get out there. And I think the entire agency needs to just completely be rebuilt and rethought.
Mr. Orange, what about making summer jobs program a year-round program, and then whatever else?
Well, first of all, I just like to answer your question there. You know, we have the laws on the books. We need champions to enforce those laws. Like I champion the law that says that 50% of an agency's budget must be spent with our local small disadvantaged businesses. I took that spending from $98 million to $567 million. Since I've been back, I've exposed that the government shortchanged our business community to the tune of $400 million in fiscal year 2011, $180 million in fiscal year 2010. I was the one that championed the Living Wage Act of 2006. And now that I'm back, we're finding out that it was never implemented.
Do you agree that the system doesn't work? All these agencies are not working because people are.
It's because we don't have leaders that are willing to bring people in and hold them accountable.
And that's why we need new leadership.
And I've shown that I can, and I have done that in the areas in which I have jurisdiction over.
You're out around the city. You see people. They need jobs, but more importantly, they need training first.
Yeah, they need training, and as I said, Tom, I'm an educator for over 25 years. I was a part of the individuals at UDC that were structuring the community college. Workforce development is a major issue, but we're talking about bringing Walmart and Home Depot and those kinds of jobs into the district. Well, how much training do you need to hold a sign that says stop or go or yield? How much training do you need to stand in Walmart and wave at somebody and say welcome to Walmart? How much training do you need to
actually, a lot of people need training for those jobs.
Training for attitude, but not holding a sign. But I think we need to hold DOES accountable. I was at a meeting the other day with the director of DOES. My questions were, who's enforcing the first source agreement? Okay. Who's enforcing the preference for D.C. residents to get jobs in the district?
Peter Shapiro, First Source, many people are saying it doesn't work for it. It's got grand ideas, but First Source doesn't work.
Well, grand is the operative word here, because I think there's a lot of grandstanding on this issue. And I think that every time I hear Mr. Orange speak about this, I'm just convinced that the next thing he's going to say is that he invented the internet. Because it gets bigger and bigger what his role is with this. I think what's missing is absolute clarity around our vision for how we want to grow jobs in this city. So it's about identifying the specific sectors of the economy where we want to grow jobs.
Year-round summer jobs?
If it's part of the plan, but this is part of it. We don't have enough transparency. We don't have enough accountability. We're not identifying the specific neighborhoods where we want to create the jobs. We don't have performance requirements when we support economic development. We don't have job quality standards. I mean, Tom, we need the equivalent of a Marshall Plan when it comes to revitalizing our job training program.
Well,
there's nothing more important, too.
E. Gail Anderson Holness, the Reverend Holness, talked about her interest and participation in education in this city. And Sekou Biddle, you have put education right at the top of your own interests in running and your background in education. Do you think the city is wise to continue with the current system with mayoral control of schools? Do you think that system should be modified to give control back to a school board?
I think that the mayoral control has gotten us a lot. I mean, let's look at what we've accomplished over the last 5 to 6 years. We have radically transformed just the physical facilities we have in the city. Now, there's no one that could argue that the changes we've made have not radically improved the facilities in the city. And it's abundantly clear. And it's because we allowed the school system to focus on its core business, which is educating young people, and allowed a different agency to focus on facilities. Like, that was a huge
I'm
step.
sorry, the question was, do you support continuing mayoral control?
And so I absolutely support continuing mayoral control because it creates a clear line of accountability. Who's responsible for the improvement of our school system? The residents and the voters have the ability to look at who's responsible. Prior to this, we had a system in which the council pointed at the board pointed at the superintendent pointed at everybody else, and things just did not get done.
Reverend Holness, do you support continuing the mayor control of the school system?
Absolutely not. You need educators controlling the school system. You need parents involved on the school board, an elected school. We already have an elected school board, yes, but we need an effective elected school board. We need parental involvement. I recommend that we would get our educators that are retired in the District of Columbia something to do, and that would engage our seniors.
Okay, Mr. Shapiro, what about it? The mayoral control?
Yes, I support mayoral control, and I think it's moving us in the right direction. And I just want to say this is an example of where, because this is a leadership issue, and this is an example of where the council is quite broken around this. There's not even an education committee on the council anymore, and the editorial around 13 chancellors, 13 council members and 13 chancellors, is exactly what I feel.
Mr. Orange, do you think that the council is slipping back into micromanaging schools? Do you like the way the system is?
There was an article in a letter to the Washington Post today from Council Chairman Kwame Brown, who made a specific suggestion about when students in schools should be taking a certain standardized test, and the Post seems to feel that represents the council interfering in education again.
Well, first of all, let's really take a good look at the educational system. Our children did not have books for their course.
Excuse me. Do you support the continuing of the mayor to be in charge?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. But let's take a look at the school system. This school system did not provide our children books for their core subjects. It took legislation that I passed to make sure that they get books by the second week of school. Just recently, the council passed my legislation that mandates that the chancellor prepare our 3- and 4-year-olds for kindergarten and create a curriculum where our children can read independently by entering the 4th grade and can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So you do need oversight. You just can't say, I'm just going to leave this to the chancellor.
We need educators.
So raising expectations is a good thing. Now, Mr. Biddle keeps saying he's the education expert. He is not. He does not have one particular thing that he can show. I can show that I started school modernization programs through reopening McKinley Tech as McKinley Technology High School.
Getting the books, educators running out
getting
education
all kind of legislation passed. He has not one piece of legislation that got passed.
Sekou Biddle, what can you point to one thing that qualifies you to be the education candidate in this group?
Well, I can point to 19 years of service, including classroom teaching. I can point to the standards we passed when I was on the State Board of Education. Mr. Orange's loose hold on the facts notwithstanding, I have a clear track record of accomplishment. My work on the Board of Education, coupled with partnership with the Chancellor and the Office of State Superintendent, led to the city receiving a $75 million grant to support education reform from the
that was
U.S.
done
Department
by
of
the
Education.
mayor.
And once again, Mr. Orange doesn't know what he's talking about, which is why we need people who have experience on the issue, real credibility, and real expertise to drive the issue
I need to go back to the telephones. Here now is Joanna in Washington, D.C. Put your headsets on, please. Joanna, you're on the air. We're running out of time, so please make your question or comment brief.
Thank you. Well, I favor the traffic lights, the cameras, I must say. But I'm concerned about the tremendous divide in the city. We have 37% functional illiteracy, and we have the highest rate of people with advanced degrees. We have a lot of poor people, and yet we pay the highest per capita federal taxes in the country, so there have got to be a lot of rich people here. What are you going to do to bridge the divide?
Starting with you, Peter Shapiro.
Yeah, it's a great question, John. Thank you for that. This is one of the biggest challenges that we face in the city right now, and I believe this is the best example where the council is just taking their eye off the ball. So really what we need to do is focus on the job creation. More than anything else, if we can find ways to give people more of a means to make money, if we can grow the sectors of the economy that will bring in more jobs, if people are able to support their families, so many of the other issues that we face will go away.
Mr. Biddle?
Yeah, I think that Joanna pointed out one of the major issues which is illiteracy, which is leading to our large unemployment. We have unfortunately had a broken school system over the years that has not provided young people the skills they need to be competitive in the workforce, which has led to the spiraling out of control of unemployment across the city. It's also just difficult to live in the District of Columbia and and be in the middle class, which is why we're losing residents to the suburbs that provide a decent school system for middle class families to put their children in.
Reverend Holness.
Yes, the first thing we need to do is deal with our education and training system. And education, if we are educating our residents, that will bring employment. Employment will bring health care. Health care will bring the ability for affordable housing. So that would bridge our gap through our workforce development programs, through our education programs, through our institutions. We need to use UDC more. We need to use our education because education is the way out.
Some people
of
think
most
UDC
instances.
is wasting money the way it's run now, but that's another issue.
That's another issue for another
but,
time.
all right, Mr. Orange, the fact
And I
is
agree.
you can't educate the people who are right now out of jobs. You can't let them grow up and educate the future people. But what about the people right now?
Yeah, the people right now must be connected to the jobs that are coming online in this city. Over the next decade, we will create 55,000 jobs. We have 35,000 unemployed people. We need to make the connection. That's the reason why I introduced a bill, Training to the Job, to create training programs at our community college to connect them to the jobs. As it relates to illiteracy, that's why my bill just got passed 2 weeks ago to address literacy once and for all. Mr. Biddle didn't introduce any educational bills when he was on the council. He didn't even come and testify in favor of this very practical bill. Train our 3- and 4-year-olds for kindergarten and make sure that upon entering the 4th grade, our children can add, subtract, multiply, and divide and read independently.
Sure. And if you watch Mr. Orange's hearing, what you will learn is that his bill revisits issues that have already been addressed, right? As a member of the Board of Education, we passed standards for 3- and 4-year-olds. Right? We made it clear exactly what it was our young children should know and be able to do at 3 and 4 years old.
Right.
He's trying to micromanage the school system for political purposes.
All right, we're almost out of time, but I want to ask a practical question. We've had early voting, and I've seen some buses and some people come down from Mr. Orange voting downtown. We've got the sites around the city. Mr. Shapiro, about how many people do you expect to turn out? A lot of people don't even know there's an election on April 3rd. So how many people do you expect to turn out?
It's more art than science, but I would imagine there'll be somewhere between 45 and 50,000 people who vote, which means less than 15% turnout.
What
That's
about
what I
you,
would
Mr.
imagine.
Biddle? You have a sense, because you have to know how many votes you need to win. What's your rough estimate of how many people are going to come out?
At the rough estimate, give or take a couple thousand, it's called 45,000.
Mr. Orange, what do you think?
45 to 50,000.
I would go with the 45 to 50,000.
Pretty low turnout. Yeah.
Pretty low turnout compared to where we are.
Made us pick a number. We could have gone the Price is Right route.
Yeah.
Let's don't ever have an April primary again. It just seems like a horrible time.
It is a
Well,
tough
a lot
time.
of people don't know it's election.